Today's message was recorded January 31st, 2016, titled The Basics Part 3, subtitled How to Use It. Sometime come visit us at www.seasidecenter.org or join us in Encinitas, California sometime, where great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving community await you.
Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home, 'cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome
How beautiful. What a great message for this morning, because what we've been doing here at Seaside over the last few weeks is taking a look at the basic ideas of the science of mind as laid out by Ernest Holmes in his book, The Science of Mind. And we took a look at the thing itself, God, And then we took a look at the way it works and what it does. And today I'm taking a look at how to use that. You want change? Change? I'll tell you what, Ernest laid it out very clearly for us. And it really begins by recognizing, you need some change going on in your life. It's, if you feel like there's something not quite right in your world and you feel like a little itchy in your skin, pay attention. What happens is people feel a little itchy in their skin, they numb it. That's not going on. Let's see if I can just mute it and have it be quiet. I want you to know that tingling, that itching, that desire is your invitation. It is your invitation for change to take place. It is your invitation to begin to take these spiritual principles and to use it for a conscious kind of way to show up in your life. You've got a little spark going on that's saying, hey, there's something greater. It's not meant for you to stamp it out before it starts burning up everything you don't want. It's up to you to begin to fan that flame and to recognize that there's something that's seeking to birth itself. It's in your blood. It's in your ancestry. It's in your future, and it's calling through you. You are the spot in which it manifests in this world. The thing itself needs you. That's right. Which is why you become the vortex of its inkling. It's pushing, say, God, I need a change here. But Ernest says, how to use it, this is the chapter we're working from on page 54. It's pretty simple. He said, you change the consciousness and the false condition disappears. Conditions are not entities. You're the entity. And that which is conscious is more powerful than that which is unconscious. Where you're giving your power away to entities, to that which is unconscious, that looks so big and so ominous. But the truth is, you have the conscious choice in your world as to use it, and how you use it is you change your thinking. But I watch people get this inkling, this itch in their skin, this vision, and they pray, God, man, put me in this vision to this pinnacle. And what life does, I'm telling you, it drops you right off at the trailhead. It's like, yeah. But I have heard over and over again whining from people at the top of the trailhead saying, oh, it's too steep. I can't do that. I don't have enough support. I don't have the right equipment. And they whine when Spirit has put you, God knows, life knows that to reach the pinnacle without the journey, it's just not the same juice involved. You've got to make that journey, and the invitation looks like the challenges in your world. It looks like slipping. It may look like betrayal. It may look like God has abandoned you. But what that is that invitation not to get numb in your life, but say, okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to become more conscious than that which doesn't have any consciousness in my life or my world. There's something more here that is seeking to express itself, that is seeking to be known, and I'm going to know it. I'm going to know that I'm walking this world. We're all here. Thanks. I'm glad you're doing this world today with me. But I'll tell you what, we're also spiritual. And so, the saying, cliche is, I'm this spiritual entity that's incarnated in this physical form, which is why it's important for me to be as aware of my zip code as it is my divinity. That's right. It's a combination of the two. The psychology that says it's only, your emotions, it's only physical. and doesn't incorporate the spiritual side of things isn't going to take you to that deep place. And on the flip side, the spirituality that doesn't say that it's also physical dishonors the body, the emotions, the mind, the Gaia, this earth, this Mother Earth we walk on. It is a blend. It is the paradox. Us human creatures are a paradox in life. It is, the physicists say you got light and you can see it as waves or as particle. Which one is it? Is it this? Is it that? No, it can be this and that. It can be both of those. And what we do with our spirituality sometimes is that we say you got the absolute and you got the personal. But we're both, right? We talk about the universal and the relative. And we act sometimes as if the universal and the absolute is better than the relative and the personal. But it is the integration. It is both of these that we are. We are walking this world, and what we want to do and learn is know how to use this and to recognize that, it is showing up here in body, in form, as spirit, moving in this life. And if you get caught up in thinking it's one without the other, you're missing part of the equation. If you tell a Zen master when you're having troubles and challenges, and you tell her, and you say, it's all a dream. It's all illusion. It's all good. She's going to take out her stick and just whack you along the side of the head and say, now tell me, is that a dream? Yeah. It's the combination of both of those. We got to work it. And so you can make it tough. And that's what I watch the whiners do, is they get into the fear. They project what could go wrong. They live in the concern and the worry. Or it can be graceful. You get to decide what you're going to do with this itch. There's something, how you're going to use it in your life is how you use it, is how it shows up for you. I like from Zechariah, the 4th chapter, verse 6. It says, it's not by might and it's not by power, but the Spirit of the Lord. It's not because I'm being a warrior here. It's the Spirit of God. It's grace. And I'm going to do Spirit with what's before me. That's how you use it. You use it with what is before you. That's how Spirit shows up in our life. That's how you use it, with what is before you. And you can do battle, or you can be graceful in your self-expression with no expectation in return. And as you change your consciousness, what happens is the world changes around you. You find the love, you find the emotions, you find the magic unfoldment that you never really expected to be there. Ernest Holmes, and he's the founder of religious science. He was born in 1887 in the New England area, Bethel, Maine, I think it was. And he only had an official 8th grade education. He was the youngest of 9 sons. He was named after a local preacher. I guess the boys' names were used up by then. And he moved to New York, where he learned to be a butcher, actually, which served him well for parties later in life, it's said. And he was there. It's where he found Christian Science. He was falling in love with Emerson. And in 1913, he moved to Venice, California. New York, January right now, pretty cold. So he's a smart guy. And so anyway, 27, he wrote this book. Actually, he spoke it, and it was transcribed. But he says from this chapter we're working on how to use it, I'm going to spell it out for you. He says, if one wishes a definite result in the opposite direction, got anything going on in your life you don't want, your skin's itching, you're looking for results in the opposite direction, first, one realizes that the law of life is a law of liberty and law of freedom. It means you're not stuck with whatever's going on in your life. One now states that this law of liberty is flowing through them and into their affairs. Right here, one must stop and declare that these images of limitation are neither person, place, nor thing of itself, that they have no power, no personality, nor presence, and no real law to support them. Whatever's going on, remember that. It's not person, place, or thing of itself. It's not a personality. It's your projection that's making the battle there. I made that up. But there's no real law to support it, he says. One does not believe in them, and they cannot operate through them. They're free from their influence forever. And then one begins to fill the thoughts with the ideas of faith, with expectancy of good, with the realization of plenty. They sense and mentally see the right action in their life, and they put their whole trust in the law of good. And it becomes very real to them as they definitely speak it into being, into their being, into the being of the affairs of life. So, that's how you do it. You know, we spell it out in a style of prayer here in religious science. It's not the only way to pray, but we have a teachable way, which is why I call it a scientific prayer. There's some definite steps. Like I said, it's not the only way. It's the juice, it's the feeling, it's the emotion behind them. That's how you use it. But our 5 steps that we use are kind of what Ernest just spelled out for us. The first one seems pretty natural. You got a challenge going on. The first thing you want to do is recognize spirit, God, that life force. I mean, seems not natural. I don't like this. What's better? Oh, God, you're everything. Okay. That means the second step is I'm one with that. You unify with it. You get that? You recognize spirit and you unify with it. It could be called meditation in some circles if you were to stop right there. But the third step is the crucial one, and that's where you speak the spiritual truth. You know, you are speaking as spirit speaks. I mean, you're not all of spirit, but if God is everything, right? All the religions say God's infinite. That means you're of that. You know, people say blasphemy, but, you know, logically, there can't be anything else. You are of that. And so you speak as spirit speaks, the spiritual truth of the situation that you feel bound by, stuck by, that which we're saying has no consciousness of its own, that is not an entity, it's not a person, place, or thing. Though it looks like that creep over there. It really isn't. You know, it is the power that I'm giving the situation because I've got to know that spirit is in charge right here. This is how you use it. And if you speak as spirit has spoken, you planted that seed, how would you feel if God spoke the word? Pretty good, right? So you'd be grateful. You're not thankful to God because God's not outside. You're just sitting in that state of gratitude, appreciation, and grace for the spiritual truth that is manifesting in your life, and you let it go. And that's the final step, is release. That's how we do our prayers. You know, it's like you plant that seed in the soil, the law that knows how to manifest it, and you don't keep digging it up. You let it go. You let spirit do its thing, and it can be that simple. Okay? That's what I want us to do, is to make it simple. I love what Winnie the Pooh said. He said, it's much more fun talking to people who don't use long, difficult words, but short, easy ones, like, what about lunch? Just say it as it is and keep it simple in your life. And as you keep it simple, you find yourself beginning to stir and to move and to experience the presence of God. You know, that's how the healing happens. That's where the magic comes, is when you take your efforting out, because I'll tell you what, you don't put the power into your words. The law, which brings forth the spoken words, done and choose you believe, the soil, the power's there. You just have to access it. You got to utilize it. But a lot of times people say, I got to think really hard. That's why they make it difficult. You can't put any more power into the infinite. You got that? Right. 2 of you. Good. Well, that's a start. Yeah. You don't put the power into the law. The power is there. What you do is you access it, you activate it, you release it, and it begins to move into form. And so you allow it to happen with grace, and life begins to reveal itself in a greater way. Did you ever see that movie, Gorillas in the Mist? That was about Diane Fossey. Beautiful movie, and she followed her mentor, George Schaller, into the jungles of Africa to study the apes. And George Schaller really pioneered the approach, because up until he started going into the jungles with the giant gorillas, they really never got too much information. And he gathered more information than had ever been gathered prior to him. And his colleague says, George, how'd you do this? And he says, very simple. There's one simple thing that I did that no one else had ever done before. All my predecessors believed that they were going into a very dangerous situation with these large gorillas. And all of them came packing the sense of fear, danger, and large rifles. And I didn't bring any guns. And those gorillas, they could sense the difference of those men that were filled with danger and rifles, as opposed to me, who just came to be among them, which is how I was invited to just sit. And they came to me and was invited to just sit with the family for hours and days on edge, just to sit and to notice and observe the family traits of the different troops of the gorillas that were there. So that's the thing with spirit. is that you can allow it to be. You don't have to take it by storm. I mean, you can bring on the warrior consciousness and you're going to be living in a battlefield of the fear and the possibility of disease and death. Or you can surrender and just be at a place of ease. You know, in honor of Black History Month coming up, you know, one of the great American sages, George Washington Carver, said that anything will reveal its secrets if you love it enough, right? If you love it, if you're present, if you invite it, if you create the space for it to show up, something's going to happen. And so what I want us to understand is as we journey through this life, what is before us is our opportunity to practice these spiritual principles. Remember, it's not this and that. It is the integration of the Spirit through form that makes a difference. And so those are working, let's say, in relationship. I'm a firm believer, practice with the one you got. It's just, it's a good approach. It's your soulmate. You know, Ariel Ford, who's coming here Friday night, and if you haven't got your ticket yet, get your ticket. She is a gift for sure. But, you know, she talks about that your soulmate is the main character in your cast at this time in life. They have been designed to bring you karmic lessons. Does not your soulmate know which buttons to push? Mm-hmm. Right. And they're your karmic coach, is what she says. And so I want to share with you something she writes about approaching a conversation with your karmic coach. Right? You know, that person who knows those buttons, who knows how to have you look at things a little bit more honestly than other individuals in your life. I'm going to share with you a key to approaching that dialogue, or Ariel does. And learning how to discuss issues with your partner starts with kindness, respect, and affection. For research has shown that 96% of the time, the most important part of the potentially difficult dialogue with your partner is the first 3 minutes. Those first few minutes predict how the remainder of the conversation is going to go. By deciding in advance that you want to approach your partner with kindness, respect, and affection, and maybe even some humor, you will guarantee a greater chance of a happy outcome. You can approach it. I'm going to blame you. It is your fault. How did you do that? Why did you spend that? Why did you call that person? Whatever it is, you got the rifle out, and there's danger. How are you using the Spirit? It doesn't care. You can use it to create reality from your fear of danger, or you can use it to bring kindness, affection, and love into the conversation with your soulmate or your partner or the person you're willing to be intimate enough to expose yourself and be seen. And your beginning is kind of what casts the vibration or the tone for it to unfold in your life. And what the gorillas have taught us, what relationships can teach us, is that if you approach it in a little bit more loving, respectful kind of way, Spirit just might show up a little bit easier. Artists know that. I've got this wonderful quote from Tama Keeves, who spoke here a couple years ago, and she's just extraordinary in her creative expression. She says, your muse will not come into a room if you've brought in expectations. I need to have this written by, boom. Doesn't work for me well that way. So your muse doesn't come into the room if you brought in expectations. She will not enter a room secretly crowded with surveyors, actuaries, accountants, and salesmen. Believe me, she smells a calculator in the room and will have nothing to do with you. You have to come alone. You have to come with a curiosity and bare feet. You may turn your inspiration into profit centers later, but meanwhile, don't monetize the butterflies. You must court inspiration on inspiration's terms. Once again, how you use it. If you come with this ferocious approach, that which shows up with a lightness and an ease is gone. It's like in the jungle, gone. But if all of a sudden you're saying, okay, Spirit, use me. And I'm going to sit in meditation, and I'm available. See, that's the thing. You can't always force inspiration. You can't force the mystical experience. but you can make yourself available. How you use it is, okay, Spirit, I am available to catch that vision, that pinnacle opportunity, and I'm going to trust where I land is the answer to the prayer here. I mean, I don't get it, but I recognize what's showing up in my world is not a person, place, or thing of itself. It may look real to me, but I know that it is the manifestation of a consciousness that is conscious and is not going to be sucked into an experience that doesn't belong. Even though I feel that I'm stuck here. All my friends are taking off and leaving without me. They're taking road trips. They're globe-trotting and sending me postcards from who knows where. And I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling like I should be further along in my life with my future dreams and this pinnacle kind of experience. And I am sitting here binging on brownies and reading these savvy posts on the social media from my friends that are so brilliant. And it's like, I want us not to slip into whipping ourselves. Flogging ourselves is not what is needed in this moment. What is needed is deeper dimensions of compassion to help bring out that muse, that energy, that life force, that spirit that's going to bring with it a revelation that will transform our lives. How you use this is you change your, as we say, change your thinking, change your life. You are the place where this is going to unfold and happen. You are the one who gets to decide how it's going to show up in your life. And am I going to allow the fear to impact me in my world? I'm going to tell you, don't get stuck in your fear because you're not going to have to stay there if you choose not to. It's come to pass. It didn't come to stay. You get to traverse through that in your life and in your world. You are the one who says, you know what? There's more to me than this. And if the path I'm on doesn't have heart, you need to get off the beaten path and get onto the path that has been less traveled and still has a heartbeat and still has some life to it, because there is an avalanche of advisors who's going to give you how to be average in your life if you want to listen to them. But if you want that pinnacle or that vision to manifest, you've got to recognize what is going on as part of that trail that you have chosen to walk on. And the joy of arriving there comes from having done the journey. And you're being given the tools on how to use the infinite in your life for real and relevant kind of ways. There is a method, a scientific prayer that I shared with you. There is an alignment with the Spirit. You catch that vision through meditation. You're not bound. I have people say, but Christian, I've read your books. I've listened to you talk. And I hear and I see, but I don't feel. I don't feel it. I haven't had that quickening. That inspiration. But, you've got to have the faith. Even if it doesn't seem that's forthcoming, those that stick to it begins to show up in their life, in their world. There's this guy born with the 20th century, and he was walking down a spiral stairway aboard a ship when it hit him. He made this scientific revelation that transformed biology, that maybe the proteins of the body traveled down a spiral, wavy thing, just like here. And there began the research for the DNA in a deeper kind of level, became a quantum chemist. Won the Nobel Prize for his discoveries. He's living in L.A., and he's coughing, and his head's going, and he says, you know what? I think this is because of the cars and the smog, and he invented electric cars. He was way ahead of his time. It was of no financial value back then, but he came up with it. He had kidney disease, and there was no medication to heal it, and because of a biologist, he decided healthy foods was the answer. He partook in healthy foods, mega doses of vitamin C, and there was healing that took place in his body. When we dropped bombs, or the bombs went off in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, he was called to Hollywood to talk to the scientists against nuclear weapons. He didn't feel that he got everything said he wanted to say, and he went on to lead a movement against nuclear weaponry and ended up winning a second Nobel Peace Prize. But instead of chemistry, this one was in 1962 Nobel Peace Prize. And Life magazine just chastised him and said it was an insult to the American people because the government had him on a list of sympathizers of the Communist Party. They took his passport away from him a couple times. Linus Pauling was considered one of the top 20 scientists of all times and has continued to come up against the challenges and the difficulties. One of the few people to win 2 Nobel Prizes. Here he has published more than 1,200 papers and is just chastised for standing up with some scientific evidence that said, you know what? There's ways in which we can do things differently, but this is part of the path. He is dropped off of the trailhead, and Spirit says, here you go, use it. And what comes its way is just part of the unfoldment that is in your life, and you can give your power away to it, or you can claim that there's something greater in your world that can be done. But as you choose to give up the fight, not that you have given up, you have surrendered to Spirit to carry you to a new place. Spirit shows up in ways that are amazing, that you may not have ever thought of before. But Spirit is there to assist you in those difficult times when you are being true to that itching of your skin, that desire for more, that you're not stomping out the light that is trying to burn away the old garbage that doesn't serve you anymore. Fun story. It was a cold January winter day in New York, like right this time of the year. One of the coldest on record. And the mayor, LaGuardia, was in at that time. It was 1935. And he was considered the mayor of the people, known for the hat he wore around town. And he'd go out on rides with the fire department, the police department, walk the streets with the people. And on this cold January day, decided he was going to sit on the bench as judge and give the judge that day off. And as he was sitting in there, he was trying, it was a petty case of petty crimes. This one woman was brought forth for stealing bread. And you may know this story. It's a well-told story. And this older woman was standing before LaGuardia, and he said, tell me what's going on. And he said, Your Honor, I'm so sorry. That my daughter is sick and has been unable to work. You know, in the midst of this deep depression, my grandchildren are starving. They're nearly to death. Their husband abandoned the family, and what is a grandmother to do? Gloria looked at her, and the shopkeeper, the grocer, was there, and he refused to let go of the charge. He said he wanted to make a statement so this doesn't continue in this time of depression and recession. So LaGuardia looked at this woman and said, I'm so sorry, but there's nothing I can do about the law. And so I must fine you $10. I know you don't have $10, or 10 days in prison. And with that, as he was passing the judgment, he was sticking his hand in his pocket, and he pulled out $10, and he took his hat off, and he put the $10 in that hat, and he said to the courtroom, and I'm fining all of you that are here 50 cents for living in a city where a grandma has to steal bread to feed her grandchildren. And with that, he passed it around the room. And when it was collected, the paper said it collected $47.50. 50 cents came from that shame-faced grocer who brought her there. And as the woman left the court, all the petty criminals and the people viewing and the police all stood and gave LaGuardia a standing ovation for doing something so outside of the box, but yet felt so right. When Spirit is moving through you, it just lands lightly. All of a sudden, you're seeing ways in which your conscious mind may not have been because it has been so fixated on trying to get there this way, when there's all sorts of other ways to bring about what we get to do, and how we get to use that Spirit is to bring it into our life, to sit in the qualities in that Spirit of God. I loved what Zorba the Greek said. He said, life is about rolling up your sleeves and just wrestling with problems. You know, and sometimes that biggest problem right here, and this consciousness and this understanding. It was Carl Jung who said, perhaps I am the enemy that needs to be loved most. So what I said, don't pull out that whip and beat yourself up. How you use this is you just go deeper in your compassion and your self-love and say, Spirit, show me. I'm available. Show me. I'm here. I hear you. I see you. But now I want to feel it. I want that quickening. I want that inspiration. Now is the time. Now is the appointed moment. And it's not through might and it is not through power, but it's the Spirit of the Lord that is upon me in this moment that will transform it all, because that is how it works. God bless you.
Such a long way home from where you have been. And what will it take to bring you back again? And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Can you hear the sound, the whisper in your soul that calls you back to where you belong? And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Behold the love. Behold the light in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. In your mind, in your heart, in your soul. In your mind, in your heart, in your soul. And all your searching's brought you to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Here.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.